This one is already billed as the wooden spoon decider. My name is Mark, let's talk rugby. As I said in the intro, whether it's fair or not, almost everyone is assuming that the loser of this game is going to end up with the wooden spoon. This year, there are still going to be 3 rounds of the competition to go after this one, so obviously won't actually be decided on Saturday. But again, most people feel that especially if Wales lose this one, then it's almost a guaranteed wooden spoon for them, a second one in a row. So this one, Italy versus Wales, it's on Saturday 8th of February 2025. It's in the Stadio Olimpico, and kickoff time is 2:15. That's Irish and UK time. And last year, this game was finished Wales 21, Italy 24. And then in 2023, it was Italy 17, Wales 29. So last time Wales were in Rome in the Six Nations, they actually, won out there. Odds for this one, though, Italy are 9-4 on favourites, Wales 5-2, and the draw is 25-1. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about, some stuff from last weekend. I won't go into as much because I've already done that in the preview of the weekend as a whole, but just some cliff notes. Wales nilled for the first time in Six Nations, in a 43-0 defeat against France. They were completely toothless in attack, and positive from them though is that they didn't lose heart, even when France were running in scores. Like they didn't give them any easy ones. But one of the problems is, no real consistency for them over the Autumn Internationals. And, what people have been looking for is for Gatland to figure out what his best team is, and just work with them. So when we come and look at the team in a little while, we'll see whether he's getting there or not. Italy then, slow starters against Scotland. And, Scotland just really quick out of the traps there, a couple of tries, and Italy just kind of keeping on in there with penalties, and then they get the intercept try, get themselves back level, but then Scotland go again, and they can't stick with them. And then the big thing I talked about in the other video for this as well is how Italy are going to cope with being the favourites for this game. They're so used to going in as underdogs, looking to cause an upset. Now it would be an upset if Wales won this one, honestly. So Italy have to kind of manage that. Now we're going to have a look at the teams. Then we'll talk about how the teams are kind of changed since last week, and also we'll talk about some stats as well from last week's games that may have an impact on this one. So we start with the home team, Italy. Start with the front row. We got Danilo Fischetti, Giacomo Nicotera, Simone Ferrari. Second row then is Niccolò Canone, Federico Ruzza. Back row, Sebastian Negri, Michel Lamro, and Lorenzo Canone. Halfbacks, Martin Page Rello and Paolo Garbisi. Left wing, Monte Ioani. The centres then, Tommaso Menincello and Juan Ignacio Brex. Right wing, Ange Capuozzo, and fullback is Tommaso Allen. On the bench then we got Gianmarco Lucchesi, Luca Rizzoli, Marco Ricconi, Dino Lam, Manuel Giuliani, Ross Vincent, Alessandro Garbisi, and Jacopo Trula. Okay. And just like in terms of changes for them since, from last week's. So Niccolò Canone is up from the bench in place of Lam. So they've kind of swapped, starting bench place with each other. And then Trula is on the bench instead of Jesse, who drops out of the squad. So, not too many changes for them. And I actually talked about, like in the preview of the game against Scotland with the Italy team, that Nicolo Canone comes in and out of that second row all the time from the bench, starting a lot. So it's something I think he's kind of used to. Then we're going to have a look at the Wales team. So front row is Gareth Thomas, Evan Lloyd, and Henry Thomas. The second row, Will Rowlands and Daffyd Jenkins. Back row, James Botham, Jack Morgan, and Taulupe Faletau. Halfbacks, Thomas Williams and Ben Thomas. Then the left wing is Josh Adams. Centres, Eddie James and Nick Tompkins. Right wing, Tom Rogers and fullback Liam Williams. On the bench then, Elliot Dee, Nicky Smith, Kieran Azarati, Freddie Thomas, Aaron Wainwright, Roger Williams, Dan Evans and Blair Murray. So for Wales, 2 changes to their starting team. You got Faletau into the back row. That's going to be a big boost for him. He is, one of the few quality players that they actually have. Then James is in for Watkins, who got injured last week and is out of the rest of the tournament. Wainwright up to the bench. So Faletau and Wainwright, big positives for them. But you wonder if it's going to be enough to actually be competitive against Italy. They certainly will look to be more competitive than they were against France. Now, just looking at the teams as well, a couple of things to note. We start with Italy first. So, looking at the pack did okay against Scotland at times, but again, the whole team was caught cold really by Scotland's start. They can't do that again against Wales. They're coming in as favourites. But if Wales get a couple of early scores, then they get a bit of confidence, and suddenly it's more difficult for Italy to get themselves back into the game. And so for them, really, what they got to do is start well and then keep it going for, they know Wales will have a purple patch, but at least keep it going for most of the 80 minutes and take their scores, take their points the way they did against Scotland. Don't go chasing tries too early on. Obviously, if they think it's there, yeah, go for it. But if you kick to the corner 4 times and you've come away with nothing, that maybe it's time to kick for the post, right? So I think that's going to be a big thing for them is game management. Because they did manage the game very well against Scotland to give them that chance to come back into it. Just didn't have the gas then in the second half. Especially the final quarter of the game. Other things then, I thought, Pedrello and Garbisi went well at halfbacks. Then centres, Brex obviously got his intercept try, but I thought himself and Menoncello looked decent in the game. Capuozzo, very quiet in that game. He's got to go looking for more work, I think, against Wales. Look for that space and try to get those dancing feet working for them as well. Bench is going to be very important for them too. You looked at the bench, and it's apart from Trula there, it's pretty much the same bench that they had against Scotland. And you looked at that bench and thought, okay, yeah, you got front row look like they'll contribute. Then there was Lamaro, Canone was on the bench instead of Lamb. But you thought like the likes of Zuliani and Vincent, especially in the back row, would come on and add something there. Didn't really do that. Kind of Ross Vincent a little bit disappointed in his performance because expected him to come on and really have an impact, but none of the bench had that much of an impact. Alessandro Garbisi, when he come on again, just fighting a losing battle. So hopefully in this one, those guys can come on and properly, give the team a kind of a second wind. And I think they'll need that as well in this game. For Wales, then, back row change, obviously, with Faletau coming in there. And, I think that's going to be important for them because they didn't really have any go forward at all against France. Like, they're passing the ball, and the way they're passing the ball, everybody's standing so deep that by the time, like, they went 3 or 4 passes, they're like 15 meters behind the gain line or something, 10, 15 meters behind the gain line. And then a player has to run it up. And already the defense has obviously come up. And now he's got to get the new gain line. He's got to go over that by maybe 7 meters just to get back to where they started, So definitely feel like they need the likes of Faletau in there to give them better carrying options, and Wainwright coming off the bench as well. Bend that line, make it so that the opposition can't just come rushing up all the time on you, keep them honest. And also they got to stand flatter as well, which means that the ball, like, in terms of their ruck speed was very good, but in terms of actually moving the ball across the back line, it's got to be faster. If you're going to be playing flatter, therefore the passes have to be quicker, or you're going to get, like, an opposition right in your face. So we'll see how they manage that. Obviously, it's another centre combination for them. In fairness, with Watkin out, this is injury enforced, so it's not that Gatland just kind of tore up the centre partnership again. It's unfortunate for them because you look at the rest of the team again. Faletau coming in, but he's picked a fairly consistent team, giving these guys a chance to back up from the France game, where defensively, they were okay. Obviously weren't brilliant because they conceded like 43 points, but the defense was certainly much better than their attack. So a chance for these guys to maybe show what they can do now. You would like to see the likes of Blair Murray getting on because he's looked really good in the URC. Would love to see him get him some decent game time. Same with Dan Edwards as well. When he comes on, he'll probably slot in there at 10 instead of Thomas. But you already feel like they're up against it. That Italy definitely deserve the favourite tags. But we're going to have a look at some of the stats from last week for each of these teams, and that will kind of help us in terms of what to look out for really at the weekend. So going to start with kicks and plays. So these two teams kicked the least last weekend. So Wales with just 26 kicks and Italy 27. And then the top of that tree was England 38. But England were a bit of an outlier. Like, the next team after them was Ireland with 31. But still, Italy and Wales kicking the least of all of the teams. We have to see whether that continues this week or not. Honestly, with Wales, the way they were attacking last week and the way it was so predictable and just kind of hands across the park, and again coming from deep and not even coming onto the ball at pace. It really was just kind of shoveling on the problem to the next guy in the attack. That maybe kicking a bit more wouldn't be a bad idea for them. Italy as well, for them, they've got to be playing, like running the ball in the right areas of the field as well. And then if we look at kick meters as well, Wales at the very bottom there with 619.8 meters, and Italy third bottom with 752.1. So we'll see whether either team changes their tact with that. Then tackles made. Then these two teams made the most tackles last weekend. Italy made 212 tackles and Wales 185. So between them, almost like just shy of 400 tackles between those two teams. is a pretty substantial number, and you probably expect this weekend it's going to be a little bit lower, but not hugely lower, I wouldn't say either, because I think both teams are going to have to put in a defensive shift if they're going to get anything out of the game. And there's tackle success very similar. Italy's 87.6 and Wales 87.26, so kind of well matched in that regard. Then on to penalties conceded, Italy, keeping a fairly clean copybook, only 7 penalties conceded, and that's the second lowest after France. Wales, with the worst discipline record from last week in terms of penalties, at least 12 conceded, so they'll definitely want to improve on that. Italy will want to be somewhere around the same level again. Then ruck speed, like some good news for Wales. Rucks between 0 and 3 seconds for Wales, 65.04% is the highest by a good margin. So they had quick ball, they just did absolutely nothing with it. And then Italy, comparatively very slow ball, down there in 5th place with 47.12, and only England having less, rucks from 0 to 3 seconds. Now, what I've done as well is I've done a notional kind of average ruck speed. So the official stats are broken down between 0 to 3 seconds, and then I think it's 4 to 6 seconds, and then after that it's 6+ seconds. So what I've done is I've given notional averages to each of them. So 0 to 3 seconds, I took that as being like 1.5 seconds on average. Then 4 to 6 was 5 seconds, and then 6+ was 8 seconds, and then worked out a notional average ruck speed. So it's not an actual average ruck speed, because you have to time every single ruck. And I'm sure somebody has done that, but I don't have that available to me. We'd have to time every single ruck, and then add up all the time divided by the number of rucks. But we don't have that. So this at least is going to be a guide. So these two teams then, Wales, notionally at least the fastest ruck speed of any of the teams last weekend. The only team below 3 seconds as well on average, 2.9186 seconds for them. Again, notionally average per ruck. And then Italy, more than a full second slower, 3.9501 for them. So if that happens again, Wales definitely going to have faster ball, but they've got to be able to work out, well, what can we do with it? And sure, they know, they know themselves that they had fast ball, and they've got to have been working over the week about, okay, well, if the ball is that quick again, what can you actually do with it? Because you would expect, if you're a full second faster at the ruck than your opposition, that when you get that ball out, their defense isn't properly set. There are gaps somewhere, and you've got to be able to exploit it. And the way Wales were playing, it didn't matter if like Wales are getting out in a fraction of a second, let alone 3 seconds, because they were just wasting all the time the way they were playing. Standing too deep, as I said, and no disguise under attack. Very few dummy runners. Very kind of telegraphed where the ball was going for the most part, and and then the actual passing beyond the ruck, again, slow and ponderous. So definitely got to improve on that. And then Italy will look to, on one hand, slow that Welsh ball down, and on the other hand, speed their own ball up as well. So be interesting to see after this weekend whether they're able to do that or not. Okay, next then, what we're going to look at is breakdown steals. So Italy, second only to England with 3 breakdown steals, and Wales with 1, joint last with Ireland. And neither team really used a maul all that much either. Italy with 3 mauls, 1 and Wales with 2. So again, I'm expecting that to change this weekend, because I'm expecting that, Italy are probably going to go to the corner a bit and go to the maul, especially early on in the game. And if they get success in that, obviously they keep going with it. If they don't, from their point of view, hopefully they will change. Then scrums, Wales are the most scrums, won with 9, and then Italy in the middle of the pack with 5. Four teams altogether had 5 each. And in lineouts, again, 2 teams at the bottom of the list here. Italy with 13, 1, and Wales down with the least with just 7. Like 7 is a crazy small number for lineouts. So again, that could be a decent area. Again, for both teams, opportunities, right? Italy thinking, okay, well, maybe we can attack the Welsh lineout, and Wales just looking at it as, well, there's an easy improvement for us in the game. So yeah, so those are some of the stats. I do have a video on stats in the first round that goes more detailed into the stuff as well. You can have a look at that. It's on the channel in the follow week as well. So after this round, we're going to do a more in-depth video for stats as well over the first 2 rounds. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this one, other than my prediction for the game, and it hasn't changed since I did the round preview. And that's, I think Italy are gonna win this one, but I think Wales are going to be improved in their performance. There is going to be some more positives for Wales, but if it's another defeat, maybe people won't be looking at that at all, because again, a lot of people in Wales or outside Wales, doesn't matter, will be thinking if it's a defeat, it's probably another wooden spoon for Wales. Obviously, it's not confirmed no matter what happens in this game, but that's, I think, what most people's thinking will be. But that's the end of this one. Let me know what you think down in the comments.